So let me get right to the point. I want to do some review and some revisitation of the exchange that went on at the H.W. Bush funeral. And after having had 700,000 people view it, there are more than a few comments, both positive and negative, that relate to this. And one of which was, you got to have an outline and you got to get right through this. It's a 10-minute one. So let's go faster, all right? So let me start with number one. What I am not going to tell you with any definitive response is what was on that note, on those cards that the people got. I don't have any better answer than any of the other 325 million people in the United States that didn't get it, or that didn't serve it, or who didn't write it or print it. So there are probably 20 or 50 or 100 people that know what's on it, and the rest of us don't. Do we learn anything by looking even if we don't have the answer? That's the question. So let's revisit what happened and what didn't happen. First of all, with respect to the vice presidents, that's the second row. My first comment is, I obviously got wrong and missed that Al Gore was there. He was sitting off on the edge, and I didn't see him. I also did not see any exchange, but there are other people that said he got a card. Number two, there are people that said that Dick Cheney got a card, or that his wife got a card, and I'll talk about the wives in a minute. Obviously, Dick Cheney didn't show any change of mood, because I only think he has one mood. The other two vice presidents that got cards, one was Biden, and I showed in the previous video how shocked he and his wife both seemed to be, and they were also shocked in the interaction that they had with Hillary, with her apparently either telling them what's on the card or referencing that or relating to it or engaging them with what's on it. And finally, the guy that got the card, the couple that got the card that was perhaps the most interesting of all was Mike Pence and his wife, because obviously as the vice president, one would expect that if there's anything official about this card being issued, that he, as a part of the official part of government, would not have gotten it, okay? So, and then we have the former presidents, including Carter, who numerous people have said spent time opening and closing his program trying to find where his card was because he didn't get one, and it was obvious to him that others, including the Obamas and the Clintons, did get one. So from all appearances, he did not. The Obamas appeared to get it, and Michelle seemed to have an acknowledgement of it, and to a lesser extent, Obama did. Hillary got a card, and I'm not sure that Bill was officially in the loop, but Hillary, as I pointed out, obviously took great umbrage with it and was, I think, out of control for a moment with her facial expression. And that's what I pointed out in the previous thing. But most importantly is the George W. Bush and Bush family exchange. And there are numerous people that said to me that the Secret Service guy, the bald guy in the second row, did not give a card. And it's hard to know exactly what happened, whether there was a note passed from George W. to Laura that Jeb saw, or whether a card was passed through. It's hard to know exactly, but obviously the Secret Service guys were right behind the Bushes, even though none of them have any official governmental capacity, and yet they were 2 rows behind Trump and his wife, the current president. So even the seating arrangement causes one to do a little thinking about what it meant and what it didn't. But it is clear that, and some have pointed out that perhaps it was something that Bush wrote, George Shrubby, I call him, Bush wrote, that he handed off to Laura and that Laura showed to Jeb. And clearly all 3 of them were significantly impacted. Some people said that Bush that Bush's demeanor wasn't all that different. Well, I think I would beg to differ. I'd beg to disagree. They said he was distracted during the funeral, and I agree with that, but I think that was mostly because he was going to give a speech, and he had his notebook and his speech with him. He was clearly focused on the speech. I give him credit. He was going to be speaking to a couple thousand people in person and speaking to tens of millions throughout the world, maybe hundreds of millions throughout the world. So he had every reason to be focused on that. But the little smirk that he showed, the pleasure with himself about being entertaining, was not the same demeanor that he showed as he wrote the note and as he handed it over. And then when Laura turned back and said, "Is this true or is this real?" he both showed, yup, he conceded that it was real. It was a confession of sorts. And then he hung his head as if in shame. And to compare the smirk with shame and confession, those three emotions inside of 5 minutes, is a pretty amazing exchange, coupled with the fact that everybody else got it. One of my subscribers said to me, this looks like a different kind of an exchange than all the cards that were received by the presidents, former presidents and vice presidents, that the Bushes had a different form of exchange. And I think that may well be correct. And it may be, there are several people, Dave Janda, among others, has suggested that they have insiders who say that over the last couple of months, George W. Bush flipped. That is, that he has confessed and has wanted to cooperate, and some of them have expressed the possibility that his motivation was that he was no longer under the wing of his father, H.W. Bush, either because his father had just died the previous week, or as some suggest, and I don't know, that his father had actually died weeks before, and that there was this delay in the funeral to fit into some kind of political agenda. But in any case, the people are suggesting that perhaps W. Bush has said, look, I want to try to save the family. I want to reduce the risk. I want to cut down on the shame. I have some remorse or whatever. Whether that's likely or not, it is clear that the exchange on the Bush side is different in some fashion from the others. So what was on this note? The first thing I can say to you is what is not on the note. And there are numbers of people who have said, well, it's an indictment. Well, when you take a card that is this size and you put on one face or the other of it, I'm just using something that was approximately the card size, and you can't write an indictment. And if you doubt me, look up what a federal indictment looks like. A federal indictment would have anywhere from 5 to 30 pages of stuff. It would have signature pages. There would be a statement. There would be venue. There would be jurisdiction. There would be statements of what the offenses that were charged. Likewise, it is not, as some have suggested, an arrest warrant. Arrest warrants are not served on invitation cards. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. Again, while an arrest warrant is typically shorter than an indictment, or at least often is, it's not going to be a four-liner. It's not going to be something that someone says, oh my God, I got served. And even if it were, some of those parties that got a card, if there were an arrest warrant or an indictment there, if this was their shocking first acknowledgement of it, they would have maybe said, yeah, I see it. Then they would have paused. Then they would have started to read it. None of them did that. It was all that whatever they got was blatantly obvious right from the outset. So was it a meme? Was it a picture? Was it some kind of an expression? Was it a statement? I mean, I have people, everybody has an idea, and that's good. It's all good. So it could well have been a meme or picture. It could well have been the possibility that George H.W., that is 41, confessed, or 40. All it would have to do is say 41 confessed. That's all it would have to say. It would implicate everybody in the pile, the whole bunch of them. It would implicate them. That he was executed, that he's in Gitmo, that he has betrayed the rest of them, that he has flipped, that he was senile, and they've recorded his confessions. Any of those are possible. It's also possible that it would have said G.W. Bush, at least the cards, had flipped, and some say so. That, as I said, some of them have said so. But here's the point about that. None of the other people who got the card, had it said anything about either the Bushes directly, HW or W, those people's eyes would immediately have turned to George W. Bush or to the Bush family, and none of them did. So the meme that they got, it seems to me, was either directly to them or independent of the Bushes in some fashion. Could it have been Q on it, or JFK Jr. is alive? Those things are possible. I don't think so. Here's the point. People were shocked by it. That's the point, is to pay attention to the fact that people were shocked by it, and that it was either a meme, a statement of rituals, a statement of confession, some other kind of direct thing, or even that the DOJ and Trump has it all. That any of those are possible. There were people who said behind it, well, this is all silliness because the funeral processions that went on in the state, the following things, the meetings and the rest of that these people have, it's all back to business as normal. And I'd say that's a possibility. That would make it a snafu, right? The World War II statement, situation normal, all effed up, right? So maybe that's where we are. All right, so for those of you who are looking for hard news, I'm done, okay? I did it in 12 minutes, I'm done. But there were funny parts to share. There were at least 200 people that probably wrote and said, no, Gore was there, he's in the second row. And had they looked at anybody else's notes, they would have recognized that not only did they correct me over and over and over again, but that I had posted something which said, hey, look, I obviously missed it. And I've thought about the possibility that what I had to do in the future is always have something wrong so people have something to post about, which in this case really was not at the heart of the matter at all, at least not as I see it. There were a bunch of things, again, this is not part of the news, that there were comments about me that I was an old man, that I needed to get back on my meds, I needed to get back into my wheelchair or my rocker. There was somebody that said, why is your shirt wrinkled? I have one of my subscribers that says, your collar is always different on one side than the other. So there were people that were literally angry with me because I did not have the ultimate answer. Why are you taking 20 minutes to tell me you don't know? Well, because like 300 other million people I don't know, and nobody who knows is going to get on YouTube and tell you. That may surprise you, but that's not going to happen. Then there were people, of course, and there always are, and this has been true for me as it relates to several things which have to do with picking on the Bush family in mourning and the rest of that. Gosh, he was a war hero, he was a great man, blah, blah, blah. How are you doing that? And I'm going to say to you, if you take a look at postings that I put on a year ago, nearly, and others, and postings by many other people, George H.W. Bush is not a war hero any more than John McCain is. They were not people who did us any good. They are not to be eulogized and lauded and made to be great heroes in their passing any more than they were during their lifetimes. The saddest thing is I would say it in retrospect, as it relates both to H.W. Bush and to John McCain, is that they were not properly tried, nor did the American people find out who they were while they were alive. That's the sad thing. So there were other suggestions somebody said there's anthrax in clothes. Well, that's a good one, right? There's anthrax. I don't think that's the case, or people would have dropped it. That Pence had been caught trying to assassinate the president. I don't think that's the case, or he'd have run down the aisle. That Gitmo is open, well, we already know that. I mean, anybody that suspects that at some level, that the trials are about to begin, that the military tribunals are there, that Poppy killed JFK or masterminded 9/11. I don't think that's it. There's a picture of JFK Jr. that says, "I'm still alive." I don't think that's it, but that's a good one. There were people that wrote to me, and of course they made fun of me, that said actually it was just an invitation to a barbecue at the White House, or to a tea, or it was somebody's laundry list that had improperly ended up in the programs. So there were others who said, hey, this is all a play. This is all an act. Everything is nothing but a play. This is kind of a serious comment about it. And I think it warrants some kind of response, and that is, are these folks really good actors? And if so, could they have all pulled it off? And I'm going to say to you, first of all, had there been some inconsistencies in how they responded, I would say, well, yeah, maybe there's acting going on, but it was absolutely positively consistent. The Bushes and the other people that got noticed all had a simultaneous response equivalent of each other, I think. Secondly, to take Bush, which I've already noted, to go from a smirk to a confession to shame inside of 5 minutes is pretty crazy stuff. Biden, you're going to tell me that Biden's a good actor, right? Biden, the guy that manhandles young girls and teenage women, teenage young women, who are at various kinds of hearings and swearings in, and that he knows how to conduct himself before a camera, but that now he's showing shock and he's a good actor, right? Well, maybe he could act a little better, could have acted a little better before. I think the flip side of it is that Hillary is absolutely unflappable. If you watched her in the Libya matter, what the heck? I'm drawing a blank. There, you can correct me on that one. She was cross-examined on national television, in public, before a Senate committee, and through that all was totally unflappable. Hardly ever misses a beat, and here she is, totally, I think, facially totally overwhelmed. So I think it's a significant event. Has it changed the world? Who knows? Does it show that something has erupted? Possibly. I think one of the obvious things that one takes away from this, that you put together with the rest of it, is that obviously neither the Trumps did not get a notice. Neither of them did. And it is of consequence to me that they clearly didn't. Not only did they not get notice, they were basically ostracized and shunned by everyone. And most of the people who shunned Trump were later given these cards. I think both of those things are significant, and it plays into the process. So let me leave it at that. This is a plenty long response to and recap of this event. I think it's a major event. I still think we're going to see some repercussions from it. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate your comments. Be kind. I'm an old guy that should be in a wheelchair or a rocking chair or something like that. So be kind to me, right? Thanks so much for watching. If you like it, give a thumbs up. Sign up if you like. I'd love to have you subscribed. Thanks so much for watching.